Hello, everybody. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is So I'm Watching Gilmore Girls, Season 1, Episode 10, Forgiveness and Stuff.
I feel better.
Yay!
Yeah, I feel better.
Good note to go out on, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this is a Christmas-adjacent episode. We don't ever... I'm trying to remember if we ever get, like, a Christmas episode.
But I'm surprised that we
There is,
we
like,
don't.
Christmas season stuff.
Okay.
But I don't remember if there's ever, like a specifically Christmas episode. Regardless, Rory and Lorelai are okay, but not great at the beginning of this episode.
They are functioning.
Functioning, but they are both helping prep for the, like, processional and tree lighting ceremony in Stars Hollow. Rory is looking for the baby Jesus' arm that has fallen off. A little baby doll.
The body was so pink, and the head and the legs and the one arm was so weathered.
Yeah. This is apparently something that happens. It has been the baby Jesus since the 60s, and Taylor is like, you're gonna find that arm. That's all there is to it. And this is a good little Kirk snippet where Lorelai is like altering or pinning for alterations his Jesus outfit, and he's like flinching because he claims she poked her with the needle. It's just everything with Kirk is this vibe. I love Sean Gunn so much because of this show.
Yeah.
He's so funny. Like you said, yeah, they're functional at the beginning. They're like speaking, but they're not on great terms. And so then we find out that it is the annual Gilmore Christmas party coming up. And when Lorelai says she won't be able to make it for cocktails, but she can make it for dinner, Emily tells her just to not come if she's so busy. It's the language, man. It's so, because it is very waspy. It's very waspy and like New England, but also it's very Midwestern, like my whole family.
Oh, yeah.
So every time there's the like Emily and Lorelai passive aggressive like stuff, I'm just like,
I hate it.
It hurts my feelings.
Yeah, I hate it.
So Lorelai is uninvited from the Christmas party, which sucks.
Yep.
I don't like that.
I don't either.
There's also a kind of a throwaway scene with Rory and Lane where they talk about like she's bought The Metamorphosis by Kafka for Dean, which if I were Rory, I would not take Lane's advice because she's never had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
She doesn't know really what she's talking about either. I do kind of like her analogy of it's as if he was to give you a football because it's what he wanted. But
they're trading books, though.
We already, if we hadn't had that scene like 2 episodes ago where they were trading book recommendations back and forth, I would think differently.
Yeah.
But we do have that, and we already know that in their relationship, that's a thing they're doing. So while I don't think The Metamorphosis by Kafka is a good gift, I think the notion of a book is fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, maybe, like, a grand romance book. Like, maybe she should have bought Jane Eyre, because she was talking about Charlotte Bronte. But regardless, I don't think it's as big a deal as Lane does. And it doesn't end up coming to anything. We don't see her and Dean exchange gifts in this episode. It's never, like, acknowledged at all. So, Rory goes to the Christmas party, and Lorelai stays home alone. She can't get her pizza, because... It's Joe, right? The pizza guy is Joe. So his truck is broken. The like delivery truck or van or whatever is broken. His brother has a Razor scooter and he's using it right now. So he'll come back. He'll come with the pizza whenever it's ready. So I just love to imagine that there's a pizza on the like doorstep when she gets back from the hospital. So she decides to go to Luke's and get food. And she wants something festive or like a special for the holiday, and he makes her the most disgusting looking burger. It's so sweet.
So much effort.
Sweet. But it's like mayonnaise and ketchup, and he's made it look like
cream cheese.
Was it cream cheese?
It was cream cheese.
Yeah, but he's made it look like Santa on the burger and the bun. It's very funny, and she's like, "This is so sweet and disgusting. I love it." But before she can eat, Taylor and the carolers come in, and Luke is trying to, like, make them leave because they're trying to trade caroling for hot cocoa instead of paying.
let's get back to bartering.
Okay, I agree, let's get back to bartering. But Taylor and Luke have, like, a very back and forth antagonistic, like, but playfully antagonistic relationship the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of thing doesn't stop.
Okay.
It's constantly like this with the two of them. And the thing for me is, like, yes, Luke should soften up a little, but at the same time, Taylor knows that he's not going to go for it, and he just keeps trying.
Yeah.
So it's like, come on, man.
Learn to cut your losses.
Definitely learn to cut your losses. But Taylor's whole thing is like, well, why don't you care about, like, town spirit? And Luke is like, I am an active member in the business community. Like, I'm here for the town, but, like, you're killing me with all this minutia. And that's kind of how it goes the whole time. And so while they're arguing, Lorelai gets a voicemail. Rory says, we're at the hospital. Grandpa's sick or whatever. And so Luke immediately, without a moment's hesitation, kicks everyone out of the diner and offers to drive her.
I'm so mad.
Immediately.
They just love each other so much.
They really do. They really do. You know what I think it was? I think it was kind of like similar to Nick and Jess on New Girl, where I think that they were like, yeah, down the line, we'd like to do a will they, won't they, but like every moment they're on screen together is so electric that they were like, we can't keep doing this.
And we keep having these conversations about platonic relationships between men and women on TV shows. And this is absolutely a relationship that I need to happen.
Sure.
Whereas, like, Ted and
Rebecca,
they don't need to get together.
I agree.
At no point did they need to get together. And then Sydney and Carmi. We are
Sydney and Carmi friendship truthers.
Yes.
That's, for me, that is, I don't want 1 inch of that.
No, but
to be romantic.
But there has, even though, like, I know that they, like, kind of do, but, like, I don't know all the information.
About Luke and Lorelai?
Yes. You feel it immediately.
It's so immediate.
Yeah, and it just, the looks are already happening.
Well, the other thing, too, that's very interesting to me is that, like, in my opinion, I think Lorelai at this point would go for it, but Luke is in love with her.
Yeah.
Luke is in love with Lorelai. And if he were to be the one that bridged the gap and was like, I'm in love with you, do you want to go on a date? She would be like, yeah, sure. And so it's like a Luke fell first, but Lorelai's gonna fall harder later kind of a thing. So that's like the dynamic. And I love these moments in their relationship where something is going on with her and he's like, immediately drops everything and is like, what can I do to help? So he drives her to the hospital, very slow, apparently. I mean, his truck is like 100 years old.
Yeah, he doesn't have power steering in that thing.
Definitely not. So they get there, and Luke is freaking out from minute one. He does not like hospitals, and it is so funny.
Yeah, it is.
I think Scott Patterson is better at kind of not even physical comedy, because he's not like pratfalling or anything, but I think he's really good at like reaction comedy, because when she's like, do you know what's scarier than that? A screwdriver in the side of the head. And he's like, what? And he turns around and looks at the patient.
He's like,
oh God. It's very funny. So half of this episode, he's just like sitting in a hospital chair, like looking at his feet because he's so freaked out. And then it turns out that actually Lorelai is really freaked out to go in and see her dad too.
Yeah.
So we also got a surprise Jane Lynch.
We did.
In this episode
everywhere
as a nurse who is not taking shit from Emily.
Not at all.
In a super fun way.
We love to see it.
We do love to see it. I get most of Emily's attitude. Because she's like, my husband is sick. You took him behind those doors.
She's a control freak.
Well, but she's also just like, no one will tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And the nurse, Jane Lynch, is like, well, you have to fill out this paperwork. And Emily's like,
yeah,
tell me some information and I'll fill out your freaking paperwork, but this is ridiculous. And I kind of agree with that. And then their personal physician arrives and also goes behind the doors. And so she just keeps on talking about how they just keep going behind the doors and then have no idea what happens. So as soon as Lorelai gets there, she's like, well, come on, let's go. And I love that Emily is just like, oh.
I didn't think we could do that.
I didn't know you could go behind the doors. I just really like how this, I mean, it's not perfect going forward, but I like how this wraps up the drama from the previous episode.
I do too.
I think it's really clean, and it does it in a way that you know that it's not 100% fixed, but like it's gonna be okay.
Yep. Well, Lorelai showing up did so much of the work for Emily.
Well, because I love that Emily at first is like, because Rory wants to call her again, and Emily is like, I'm sure she's very busy.
Yeah, and then she goes around the corner and tries to call, but she calls the house phone,
and she's already gone. Exactly. And so when she shows up, and Emily is like, "Oh, you're here," I love that. Because I also love that she doesn't really make a fuss about it. She just is there. It's really nice, and I love the little moments with Rory too, where she's like, I was just getting to know him. Like, I don't want anything to happen because, like, we're just finally getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it was just angina. He's fine. He just had, like, a little bump in the road. Yeah. But he's good. He also, he was, like, having the attack at dinner. And it's always stuff like that that, like, kills me in episodes like this because Emily is, like, worried that her telling him not to loosen his tie made it worse. And it's like, no, like, definitely not. I just love that. And I love, with forethought, like, knowing what's coming, I love and hate that scene with Emily and Luke. Because it's really nice in this moment. They have this kind of bonding moment. And she asks again about his relationship with Lorelai. And he's like, we're just friends. Like, there's nothing else going on. And she says, you're both idiots. And it's after he's said what he's done with the diner, that it was his dad's hardware store, which I mentioned to you already. And I don't know. I really like that moment in this moment. And then in the future, it's as if this moment never happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's really... Well, they don't interact a ton, Emily and Luke, but it's not great.
Okay.
Yeah. Because here it feels like Emily is like, you should pursue my daughter. And then once he's pursuing her daughter, she's like...
Oh, then she's shitty about it?
She's like, you're not good enough. Yeah. It's Richard too. It's not just Emily.
Okay.
But it's not great. It's like, those are the kind of inconsistencies in the show where I'm like, maybe they didn't know they wanted to do something and it was just Scott Patterson and Lauren Graham playing it this way. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, that doesn't make sense to me at all.
It's kind of annoying.
Huh.
Because I had, like, it's sort of similar to how I'm watching Buffy with Trevor, where it's like, I've never watched this show super critically before, like, looking for clues about stuff, and so now that I'm doing it, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Well, especially because she already kind of poked at Lorelai about it since he brought her the ice.
Yep.
Well, okay, so then maybe what happens is, because they both keep denying it, there's no worry of it. But then once it starts happening, she's just like, oh no, now it's happening, and I have to just crap on it.
Well, then you should have chosen your words more carefully,
that's
Emily.
Weird.
I also really love that there isn't actually a scene with Richard and Lorelai. Like, she finally goes in there and decides to talk to him, and then she doesn't get anything out before Emily and the doctor and Rory come back in.
I don't know. I would challenge you on that because I feel like that was a scene.
Well, sure, but there's no dialogue. They don't have a dialogue, but they are like making
it's more important
eye contact.
that they didn't.
I agree. And also there's another scene, I think it's in season 1. There's a couple of good scenes with them coming still in season 1. They make peace before her and Emily do.
Okay.
It's great. Her relationship with Richard is actually, like, really great. And while we were in there, I was like, anyone who's watched the whole show plus the revival, when I was watching this, I remembered the scene, I think it's from the 4th episode of the revival, where Lorelai calls Emily, and it's just about her relationship with Richard, and I'm gonna force her to watch all 7 seasons just so that we can watch that, because it doesn't really make sense without all the context, or else I would just show it to you, but it is, like, so good, and it's like one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, the whole thing. It's so good. There was only one other big thing I think I wanted to... 2, I guess. so when Lorelai's at home alone, Dean comes knocking on Rory's window. And he and Lorelai have a good talk where but I also don't love that he's the one that she finally believes.
Yep, I didn't like that either.
About nothing having happened at Miss Patty's, because why are you trusting this strange boy?
Right. Right. And not your daughter, who is like your best friend.
So later when she sees Rory and she's like, Dean came to see you and like he told me nothing happened. And she's like, really, nothing did happen. And I'm like, yeah, Ben knew that for like a week already. What's happening here?
I don't get it.
And then the other scene that I love that is just my favorite, because we've already been led to believe that Emily and Richard are a love match. But the scene where he is trying to tell her about like the preparations he's made in case he dies, and she will not listen. And then she says, I demand to go first. I just love it so much. I think it's so important that we get that we see very specifically and with proof that they are in love with each other.
Yeah.
They were not a society marriage. Just because their marriage occurred in society doesn't mean that they were a society match.
Yeah.
They love each other. And we find out more about that down the line.
Ooh.
So good. Let me see how many episodes it is. We meet Richard's mother. Not for like 8 episodes, but we do meet Richard's mother. So that stuff's all really good and fun. And I love that scene so much. It's so sweet.
Yay. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are done recording for today, but we will be back soon with the next episode. And let us know what you think. Like and subscribe, and we will be back next time.
Bye.
Bye.